on World War II, because I already reacted to that. Check that out. It's very good. We're going to be reacting to The Shadow Peace, multi-part sequel to The Fallen of World War II. So, I like to note, I tried to record this video like 3 times in the morning, but unfortunately, the Wi-Fi randomly decided to disconnect all those times, so I'm trying this again. It's like the evening now. So yeah, let's just get right into it. Oh. I think it's safe to assume this has something to do with the Cold War. The nuclear threats, yeah. This is also on YouTube. As you can see right here, you can watch this on YouTube. I'll put the link of this website that I'm on. See it right there in the description. So yeah, make sure to check it out. Yeah, that's good. Okay. I don't know if y'all can hear that.
Every second,
Oh my
on
God.
average, 4.6 people are born into the world. That's
Wow.
140 million births a year.
Wow. Okay. 4.6 a second? That's crazy. Wow. Okay. That is a lot of people that are born. Like, almost 5 children a second. What the heck? Jeez. Is that like
There are currently over 7 billion people alive today.
Jeez, that's huge. Oh, that's cool. They put it in like a
Humans
little.
are dying at
That's cool. They put it in like little hourglass type thing.
less than half the rate we're being born.
Really?
About 2 die every second, which is 60 million deaths a year.
That is a lot of dead people. Wow. Imagine how many people are going to be born, how many like lives are going to end throughout this video. Like, there are going to be some people who have like really meaningful lives. They spent their whole life, you know, trying to fulfill themselves and working really hard. And then, like, 80 years of information are gone. I just think that's interesting.
And the difference between the birth rate and the death rate tells us how fast the world's population is growing.
Wow, that's cool. That means like 82 million is about the population of Germany right now. That means like every single year, like another Germany is the population equivalent to Germany is made, which is fascinating. That's a lot of people. Because Germany, it's the second most populous country in Europe, behind Russia, of course. No, it could be behind Turkey. I don't know for sure. Turkey and Germany are about the same.
Gaining about 2.5 people per second, or 83 million a year.
That's a lot of people. Wow.
And as for those who are no longer living, the Population Reference Bureau came up with
It's like 100 billion or something.
108 billion
Yeah.
for the total number of humans who have ever lived and died on Earth. They used 50,000 years ago as the start date for Homo sapiens.
That is crazy. Just try to comprehend that, everybody. In this, like, I don't know, like 6% of all humans that have ever existed, 6% exist now. That's huge. 6% out of all the humans who have existed for the past 50,000 years exist right now as I speak. It's a ton of people.
Now let's arrange the sand into groups of 1 million people. 7 billion is 7,000 million. And then arrange the living by their age. Doing so creates what's called a population pyramid, though it's usually shown the other way around and separated by gender. We'll want to keep the oldest sand on the bottom. We'll arrange the dead based on how long ago they died. The spike in death during World War II is visible even at this scale.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. Like, that's a pretty big bulge. Wow. Okay, so that's death. I wonder what happened. You see, follow my mouse. What happened here? Like, there's these two tiny spikes, and I wonder what happened there. Like, well, I mean, actually, never mind. That sounds stupid. There was a lot of things that happened.
Because it all happened in just 6 years, no other war we know of could leave such a dramatic scar on our living record.
Dang, World War I looks like it was nothing.
No wars so far. A nuclear war, especially one that erupted late.
Oh yeah, and then the Great Leap Forward by China, that definitely probably caused. I don't know when the Great Leap Forward happened. Yeah, it happened somewhere there. But I'm confused, right? What, like there was so many other genocides that happened, right? Like, for example, like China, that's one of the like that's the biggest genocide that has ever happened in all of history. Like, I think around 80 million people died because of Mao, who is, by the way, on the Chinese currency, which is interesting. The guy who killed 80 million people is on the Chinese currency. Um, you'd expect to see that somewhere, right?
Late in the Cold War could have been much worse. You can pause to explore the stories behind these so-called close calls.
Oh yeah, look at this. As you can see, I'm on the website, which means, whoops, I can look at all this stuff. Yeah, it just shows all this, information. Someone just came in my room, so I had to pause the recording. Anyways, these have boxes, all that, so let's just continue.
Some were closer than others, but it's hard to know how close we came or how many people would have died. One way to study World War III casualties is to first look at what atomic weapons did to people in Japan in 1945.
Well, I mean, the nuclear bombs in Japan weren't really that powerful compared to how they are now, so how is that relevant?
And then scale up.
Oh, then I guess that's why.
About a third of the population of both cities were killed.
Oh.
90% of deaths occurred within the first 3 weeks.
Really?
While long-term effects of radiation, such as cancer, killed thousands across decades, it accounted for a small portion of the victims.
Yeah, you would think
and on
it'd
the
be
other
more.
end, only a minority of those who died were killed instantly from the blast.
Wow, I would have thought it would have been a lot more than that. I mean, that's a lot. Don't get me wrong. I would have thought that would have been way more.
Most deaths occur between the first few hours and the first few weeks. Due to
Jeez.
burns, blast injuries, collapsed structures, and radiation sickness. A broad term that describes a whole array
Dude, pull up your pants. That's nasty.
of terrible symptoms. And a slow killer. Even those with high exposure didn't die for 5 to 6 days.
Jeez, that looks awful.
The bombs dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki were small by today's standards.
I mean, even if it's small by today's standards, it's still pretty big. Like, wow, 1 mile. Like an entire mile. Just, not really 1 mile. A 1 mile radius, just complete everything destroyed. That's crazy.
The hydrogen bombs developed years later have 10 times the radius of destruction.
Wow.
But it's not the size of the bombs that makes calculating World War III deaths so daunting. It's the number of warheads in play.
So I guess it's trying to show the most likely areas that a nuclear bomb would strike. Thing that, yeah. Jeez, why so many? These aren't really. There's not very much population here. Like, are there military bases there or something? Like, why is it such a large concentration? Wow. Oh my God, California! Wow. California is gonna get completely decimated. Wow, that's quite interesting. Would have thought that would be more on the East Coast. Wow. You'd think there would be more in France, since France has a pretty powerful military. Oh my God, that's a lot in Germany. Why so many in Germany? Wow. There's so many in St. Petersburg. Like, look, they're just concentrated everywhere. Wow.
The death count for the first 3 weeks of a nuclear war would depend on how many warheads launched, and how many successfully hit their targets.
I think there would be more in China. Like, there's a lot of people there.
On the high end. Let's look at what 500 million deaths would look like. Almost 10 World War IIs in 3 weeks.
That is crazy.
Then something would have occurred that didn't happen in Japan. Because the bombs would have been so much...
Oh, okay. I think it's going to talk about how that's going to affect the sky, sort of, and all the smoke and ashes and everything is going to go up into the air and sort of make little clouds and create a nuclear winter.
Much larger. And because many would have targeted underground missile silos...
Oh, never mind. That's not what they were going to say.
Scientists believe the explosions would have propelled enough dust and ash into the...
Oh, okay, I'm right.
...the atmosphere to block out much of the Earth's sunlight. The radioactive fallout would have been deadly for a week or two, but the darkness and freezing temperatures could have decimated agriculture and food supplies for many years.
Yeah, definitely.
We won't even say to guess at what a nuclear winter or nuclear famine would have done to the world's population. With so much uncertainty, most scientists won't even throw out a number. So we'll have to end our count there, at just 3 weeks into the nightmare.
Wow. Jeez, imagine how many would have actually died in the aftermath. That would have been just absolutely... wow.
Contrary to a popular notion, even a full-scale nuclear war is unlikely to wipe out the human race. As the number of warheads increased during the arms race, so did the death count in a worst-case scenario. Since the Soviet Union collapsed, the number of bombs has been coming down. While there isn't a direct relationship between the number of warheads and the number of deaths, nuclear disarmament has reduced the potential human cost of a nuclear war in a very real way. But there are still enough bombs today to kill hundreds of millions of people, and more than enough to create the conditions of a nuclear winter. Today, there are 9 countries who have nuclear weapons.
Really, Israel has nuclear weapons. That is something I did not know.
This number has not increased for decades.
Wait, 10? South Africa had nukes? Wow.
South Africa was once on the list, but they shut their program down.
Why?
The vast majority of countries in the world have decided not to go nuclear.
Well, that's swell, isn't it?
A possible, partial explanation for this is that the United States and other countries have worked to keep this number down. Countries like North Korea and Iran get a lot of news coverage, but the U.S. has also worked to disincentivize allies from getting the bomb, using such tools as the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty and nuclear alliances. Under the rules of NATO, for example, the nuclear members provide deterrence for everyone else, which means, in theory, each country doesn't need its own bomb. The U.S. provides similar protection to allies outside of NATO, including Japan, South Korea, and Australia. In addition to disarmament and non-proliferation, there are other steps that may further reduce the risk of a nuclear war, such as a no-first-strike policy. Many of these ideas are controversial, and some may be.
Okay, well, interactive mode, what does that to mean? Could just be the same thing as earlier. Yeah. Pretty much just shows the information. It's pretty cool.
Be unwise. You can pause to learn more about their pros and cons. Even without taking most of these steps, many foreign policy experts will say that the risk of a full-scale war is less today than it was at the height of the Cold War.
Well, that makes
Though it is
sense.
certainly not at zero. Some believe the risk has grown. It certainly could grow if people become less scared of nuclear war and less steadfast in efforts to prevent it. Experts will also point out that improving relationships between countries is just as important, if not more so, than policies specific to nuclear weapons, which is important to consider when assessing something as complicated as NATO. There's no simple answer for achieving peace, but there is a simple hope. If we're clever enough to design such sophisticated weapons, we might also be clever enough to ensure we never use them. Now, our weapons are undeniably powerful. They dazzle us
No?
and
Okay. I think it's interesting. I'm under the belief that nuclear weapons have actually helped humanity a lot more than they've hurt us, because of course the Japanese nuclear bombs were terrible. That was awful, but I mean, the alternative was to literally firebomb Japan, all of its cities to the ground, and then on top of that, a naval invasion, which would have probably seen a lot of rapes and civilian deaths on both sides. Well, not civilian deaths on the American side, but you know what I mean. Oh yeah, and in Cold War, it caused the USSR and the USA not to go to war, because they knew that if they did, then there was a possibility of killing, as this video says, hundreds of millions of people. But of course, they have come pretty close to using nuclear weapons, which has been bad. Anyways, yeah, let's continue. Whoops. I'm trying to press space to continue it or pause it, but it just takes me all the way down here, which is annoying.
Remind us of our human potential. Instruments for preventing war are usually mundane, and if powerful, they tend to go unnoticed. If taking one of these steps prevented a catastrophe, we'd probably never know it. And that's what makes it so hard to prove what works in preventing war. But sometimes, when there's enough data available, you can see patterns emerge from the numbers.
Okay.
As an example, let's take a rare category of peacemaking that's actually tangible and exciting:
Exciting. I like exciting things.
Men and women who go into conflict areas to help prevent war from occurring or reoccurring. During the Cold War, the aim of peacekeepers was primarily to prevent a nuclear war. And after 1989, a new era in peacekeeping emerged. Missions became more focused on civil wars and more directly involved in the peace process. But does it work? Paige Fortna, a researcher at Columbia University, analyzed 94 cases after 1989, where there's a civil war followed by a spell of peace. Sometimes the fighting ended when one side defeated the other. Other ceasefires were more tenuous. And the peace that followed ranged from brief pauses in the fighting to decades of peace still holding today. In 36 of these cases, peacekeepers were present during the peaceful period. And they were not always successful. Sometimes war returned despite their efforts. Opponents point to these failures as evidence that peacekeeping does not work. And at a glance, it's not obvious that it does.
Well, it seems like it works some of the time, you know. At least.
Fortner ran statistical analysis to find out what factors predicted longer spans of peace.
I mean, but at the same time, there's, like, some wars that are necessary. And if we're not gonna have a war, we might as well, have some kind of diplomatic setup. Because, take Africa, for example, like the entire continent of Africa, and of course the Middle East, which isn't a continent, but you know what I mean. Like, literally, the Europeans, whenever they let them go free, they just, like, the nations look like a toddler drew the borders, seriously. They had no regard for ethnicity or anything, and that has caused, wars to happen, like, Sudan, South Sudan. Sudan has, like, completely different ethnicity than Sudan. And the fact that South Sudan won stopped so many conflicts that could have happened later, like guerrilla warfare or just like long-term resentment, That's not really related to the video. I just, think it's kind of interesting to me.
First, note that our findings
it is kind of related to the video, but whatever.
on factors outside of peacekeeping were pretty consistent with other studies. You can pause to learn more.
Okay, let's see. Oh my gosh, I did it again. Okay. Oh yeah, I forgot to press that.
Fortna found that peacekeeping had a significant effect on the staying power of peace. War was about a quarter as likely to reoccur when peacekeepers were present.
Really?
Even with the small sample size, she could claim with confidence that post-Cold War peacekeeping correlated with longer peace.
Wait, I think I'm kind of misinterpreting what they're saying. Are they saying that peacekeeping does or doesn't work? I think I'm, like, mishearing it or something.
Despite such findings, many policymakers remain unconvinced, and the general public, in the U.S. anyway, shows little enthusiasm for supporting peacekeeping missions. While few would ever question the scientific methods used to develop
okay, so they're saying peacekeeping is good, okay.
Our weapons, many are skeptical about statistics and the science of less tangible things like peace. And such doubts help fuel the argument that the only real instruments of peace are instruments of war, that peace can only be achieved by fortifying borders, strengthening armies, and winning arms races.
That's true.
That nuclear weapons are the reason there has not been a major war since World War II.
I called it. Yes, I called it. Yes.
There's truth to many such theories. But I should tell you up front that this filmmaker believes in instruments of peace. That they are real, that they are powerful, and that you can see them working if you're willing to look at the numbers. And in this series, we'll aim to bring peacemaking efforts into light with all the drama they deserve. To learn about future episodes and and how you can support this audience-funded series.
Okay, support the one on Patreon if you want. I think that's what they're about to say. But yes, very interesting video, guys. I hope y'all enjoyed it. There's more videos. There's this one. It's only 2 minutes long, but maybe I can react to it. But yeah, I really enjoyed reacting to that video. I really like seeing those statistics and numbers and have them being translated into the real world. I think it's pretty interesting, and I'm pretty sure y'all agree as well. But yeah, goodbye. Subscribe.